Here she is, Karan Ashley.
Whoa, too many people in this room. Oh my God, wow, packed house. I love it. Now we got an intimate conversation between all of us. Hi.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Well, obviously, we know you're about the Power Rangers, but I wanted to first ask you about the experience of working in Crush.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That it kind of led to it eventually.
Yeah. I always say Crush was my rehearsal for Power Rangers. Crush, I was in a group prior to Power Rangers. I had a record deal. I think we signed when I was about 12, and we were signed to A&M Perspective Records, and we got to work with the legendary producers Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. They've worked with everybody, and we got to be a part of that world. But it was great. We were signed probably about 5 years, and we were on the Mo Money soundtrack. I got a platinum record to brag about. But yeah, it was cool. Very, very cool.
Now, I know that the way that it led into Power Rangers, indirectly anyway, was that the group had to do an audition for Sister Act 2?
Well, you know what? That was part of something that we did when we were signed. Yeah, and I always tell people, when I was in Crush, I always thought, I made it. This is it. This is going to be it. And then it wasn't. But what happened while we were in the group is we had an audition. They were looking for actors, singers for Sister Act 2. And that was like the first time I'd ever auditioned for anything. And literally in those moments of just preparing and doing, I was like, I am literally going to be an actress. Like, this is what I love. This is what I want to do. And so I didn't know how, when, where, but I just knew at some point I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be an actress, and I'm gonna shift gears. And yeah, it ended up happening, just in a different way.
So what was the experience like of Power Rangers? Like a friend of yours told you about the audition? Is it right?
Yeah. A really good friend of mine. She was an actress, and she's older than me, and so she was kind of like my mentor. And she said, I think you should audition for this show. I saw this article in the newspaper. Like, that's how old it was. We didn't even have internet then. They were like this article in the newspaper, and they're looking for teenage actors, and I think you'd be great for it. It's for Power Rangers. And I was like, what's Power Rangers? I had no idea what the show was. I think I was like probably the only person on earth who didn't know about it. But I was in high school. I was trying to get into college. I was trying to figure out how I was going to move to LA and like sleep on someone's couch and pound the pavement. So I had no idea what Power Rangers was. And I went to the audition, and there were thousands of people waiting in line. Like, I literally had to wait hours. And while I was waiting hours, there was a guy in line, and he like schooled me. He told me everything about Power Rangers, and I wish I would have got his name. I need to thank him, because I literally felt so much more prepared when I went in that room, because I knew I was a teenager. I knew there was a girl named Kimberly, and I'd probably be her best friend, and like I just kind of like he gave me kind of all the tidbits, and so. I thought I was joining the cast, and so I was like, oh, it's going to be so great. It's going to be so great. And probably like 4 days later, they flew me to LA, and I auditioned for the producers. And that afternoon, they said, tell your parents to FedEx your clothes. You're living in LA. And so the dream of living in LA happened immediately.
So now, did they tell you exactly what it was about you that got you the role? Because like you said, you really had not done a whole lot of acting.
Yeah. You know what, the producer, Shuki Levy, who was one of the executive producers, he told me, he goes, you had the part the minute you walked in the room, and you smiled, and he goes, and you looked every single person in the eye. And he goes, you were not... you weren't afraid. Like, you were just connected to every single person. And he goes, so I thought in my head, if she can talk and if she can throw a kick, she's got it. And I was like, you should have told me that. I spent 4 hours. Like, it was like a process. Like, we had to do our routines, and we had to like read a monologue. And I mean, it was like, I wish I'd have known. And he was like, no, seriously, we liked you from the beginning. So I guess, I guess it's just a matter of, like, for me, but that's why I always say Crush was my practice, and it taught me my work ethic, and it taught me, like, when you walk into an audition, you look everyone in the eye, and it's really about, obviously you have to have some talent, but it's also about confidence, and it's also just about going, you know what, I don't care if I mess up, I'm here, I'm gonna have fun, I'm gonna connect with you, and hopefully you like me.
You mentioned a routine. How much training was involved in taking on this job?
None. No training. Yeah, I was a dancer, and so obviously when I did my dance routine, the first time I did it, we went to the open call audition, they didn't even have music. But I was like watching people, and like you kind of like they would line you up and like 5 people would go in, but you could see what was happening. And people were thrown off. Like they would be like, "Oh, I can't do it without music." And I'm like, I was a trained, professional. I'd been working since I was 12. So I was like, I can do it with music, without music. You want to hum, I can dance to that too. And so I went in there and just did it. And then the second time they said, add some kicks and some punches because we're going to, send a video to the producers. So I knew, I was like, okay, these kids do karate. I better call someone, And so I did. I called a friend who was he had his black belt in Taekwondo. And he just gave me a couple of tips. And so I just, put that into my routine. But there was no training. I literally got on set, and maybe 2 or 3 days later, I had my first fight. But the cool thing was the stunt team. Our stunt team was amazing. They were some of the biggest, most, world-renowned stuntmen in the industry. They had been stunt people for us, for the Ninja Turtles. They were literally the go-to guys. And they would shoot it in pieces. So you didn't have to learn a 10-minute fight, even though it would be 10 minutes, or, you would just have to learn pieces. So it was kick, punch, and it was very much like a dance. So I kind of learned, I just thought of it as a dance routine.
Obviously, you said you weren't familiar with Power Rangers going in, but once you got the job, did you go back and watch some of the episodes?
Yeah, I had to watch something, but it was funny because they were like, don't watch it. Don't watch any of it. And we were like, why? And they were like, we don't want you to act like because when we got the job, they were like, oh, by the way, 3 people have left and you 3 are the new guys. And we're like, oh, what? And it was total, we found out the day we got the job. So they were very adamant about don't watch it because we hired you guys because we want you to be how you are. We don't want you to copy what they did or try to be. And I was like, okay, good, because I'm completely different. I'm a completely different actress. And I think that was kind of good advice because I think when you're young and you're an actor and you're just getting started, you will kind of look at something, and even if you don't want it to influence you, it will, So I waited until I kind of was on the show a little bit, and then I watched some episodes just because I was like, I got to kind of see, how they did it. But at that point, I'd kind of already established the sassy Aisha, and there was no turning back.
Well, I know that you're aware of the tonal sensibilities are different with the original Japanese version.
Yeah.
Do you ever wish they had gone a bit deeper into that?
I think I like the fact that it was more a darker show. Anything could happen. But I always say Power Rangers just kind of worked in America because it was rated G with extra cheese. It's definitely a cheesy show. It's definitely for kids. But yeah, I think it could have been cool if it was just a little edgier. I always say you got to give kids a little bit more credit. They're very intelligent. So when you make it really cheesy, they know that it's cheesy. They get that part. So I think if it's edgier, it would have been cool. But I think now is when they should do that because now kids are watching Marvel movies and those shows are definitely edgier than, so I feel like let's, cater to the more edgier market. But yeah, I watched that show, the Japanese show, and I always think, how did he watch that and then say, I'm going to turn that into this? Because it's totally different from our show. It's totally different. So you got to give them credit for being creative.
Well, you've also done some sitcom work.
Yeah.
Was it difficult for you to jump from that type of acting from the action into sitcom?
Yeah, it's definitely a different thing. And I've been blessed. I've worked with some of the greats. And huge comedy, Kenan and Kel. These guys are legendary. Steve Harvey, all these different people. And I was like, how do I keep booking these jobs? I don't feel like I'm funny, but I'm working with these really funny people. Yeah. So yeah, it was very, I had to really think about it and really approach it. And I just remember a few people, would just say, the more natural you are and the more natural reaction you would have in this moment is your best thing. So I became that person who just reacted to how funny these people were, and if they did something funny, what would happen if that really happened in my life? So that's kind of where I sat in that pocket. And then I found it made me a little bit more funny because I stopped thinking about it so much.
Absolutely, yeah. Do we have questions?
Yeah, questions. Questions. Yeah, we got you guys. You guys having a fun weekend? That's the question. I know it's been fun, huh? I'm glad it's cooler today. It was kind of warm yesterday. I wasn't ready for that. Nice T-shirt.
Thank you. Hello. I was wondering, what is your favorite ad-lib in your run on Power Rangers?
Ooh, I have a lot in the movie. All of the lines that are really catchy and cool in the movie weren't necessarily in the script. I had, it's time to boogie with the bear. That's obviously a crowd favorite. I actually like that line. But when I did that line, they had me say 10 different things. I was in the studio, so they were just say this, say that, say this. And even what's funny is the final scene where I'm taking care of business. Originally, they had me saying balls out. And I was and you guys know what I did in that scene. And I was why would I say that? That's awful. And so I'm glad they changed that line because that would have been I don't know. I was are we writing this for kids? So yeah, those two are probably my favorite.
Thank you.
So on the topic of the movie itself, what would you say is your favorite scenes or to do on set with the movie in general? From being in Angel Grove, going through the different scenes that they set up for outer space, working to get to the monolith, all that stuff. What would you say your favorite set of scenes? You can pick 3 or 4 of your favorite.
Yeah. You know what? I really liked doing that fight in the construction fight because I always felt on the TV show they literally would be okay, go over there, work on your fight. We're going to start shooting you in 20 minutes. And you had 20 minutes to learn it. They didn't give us time. We would just block it out and then they would just say, go for it. Just go for it. And so for the martial artists of our group, that was they were yeah, so they loved it. But for me, who I wasn't a martial artist, I was wait, I need 5 more minutes. I need to figure this out in my head. I've never done this before. But for that fight, I got to really work on it. I got to really, just do some stuff. I even trained with the stunt team. I learned how to do that backflip, and I just really got to kind of put my own twist to things in there. And that was probably the one time, or well, not the one time, but one of the first times I felt really confident in that fight. And then it turned out really good, and they only showed a quarter of what I had trained for, but at least that looked really good. So I guess that, and then I really just love the sets. All of the sets were just bigger and better, and they lied to us and said, when you go back to the TV show, your command center is going to look like this. And we were oh my God. And then we go back and it's our old command center. Yeah. So it was just, but those sets were amazing. They were huge. And I'd never been on a big budget movie, and, Power Rangers was known for being low budget and kind of cheesy. So it was very cool to kind of just walk into this world. And the attention to detail was through the roof. So, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Good question.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. 2 quick questions. Do you still, out of curiosity, keep in contact with any of the other cast members today? And the second question was, do you still have your morpher from the show?
Yeah, we all keep in touch. We do a lot of Comic-Cons together. So normally there's quite a few of us at a show. But yeah, we see each other more now than we've seen each other. Literally the last 15 years we've been doing Comic-Con. So we see each other a lot. Sometimes I see them more than I see my own family. A lot of times. And no, I don't have anything from the show. Most of the times the joke is if you have something, you stole it. And for whatever reason, I was honest back then. I did not steal anything, and that's probably my biggest regret because I later found out everybody else stole something. And I go, guys, Like, what's up? Why didn't y'all tell me it was like still your costume day? I would have been down. But yeah, I always just thought like if I take it, I'll get fired. So I didn't want to get in trouble, So, but no, I don't have anything. But the morpher I do have was made for me by a fan, and he's a prop maker, and so I think it means a little more because that one is made by someone who loved the show.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good question.
I got two of them.
Another good shirt. I like that.
Thank you. The first question is, did you actually do the skydiving scene from the first movie, and how did you film that?
We did not actually skydive. They wouldn't let us, which I was very happy. A couple people wanted to, and I was like, are y'all crazy? Like, that is one thing I've never had the desire to do. But there was a stunt team who they dressed them up like us, and they actually did a skydive. And then we did green screen. We jumped out of a prop plane. So what you see when we're in that plane, we jumped out of that plane. They even took us up on wires that were like 50 feet high, and we came in and landed, and we were up on the wires and we were turning flips. So anytime you see us and we're flipping and we're like looking at each other and like, yeah, it was fans and it was green screen. But yeah, they wouldn't let us because it was, they couldn't insure the film if they endangered the actors. So during the film, we couldn't skydive, we couldn't scuba dive, we couldn't do anything that would like potentially hurt us or, God forbid, kill us. So they were like, we couldn't even ride on the same airplanes. Like they would fly 3 cast members on one plane and 3 on the other. And they would like make the joke like, well, if we can't lose the whole cast if something happened. And we were like, we're people. Like, what do you like?
That's hilarious. Thanks
Yeah,
so much.
they would, and they literally said it all the time. But it was totally true. We all could not be on the same plane because they were like, God forbid we lose the whole cast of Power Rangers. If we lost 3, then okay, we'll get over it. I don't know. It was so weird. It's awful, right? I was like, we're like, what are you saying?
And my other question
Yes.
is, with the new special coming out, one thing that everyone's excited about is you getting a final ending to your character. Because all the other characters became back to being the Rangers when they were kids.
Yeah.
And then you stayed a kid thinking
Yeah.
you power someone else.
Yeah.
From the Alien Rangers to
They
the
don't,
other thing.
and the thing is, a lot of people have asked me that. They don't even bring that up. Like, it's like it never happened. I won't tell you what happens because I don't want to spoil it for you. But no, they don't answer any of those questions. It makes, like, we were literally, like, when we got the script, we were like, but wait, but this don't, and they were like, just shoot the thing. And we're like, okay, but wait. For the fans, we were trying to make it make sense. But they don't, in movies and TV, they just pick up from where they want to pick up. And so that will not be addressed. Let's just act like that never happened.
All right. I guess we'll have to do that then.
I know, right? Yeah, but Power Rangers is good for not sticking to the, like, what is it? Continuity. Yeah, we used to like, what's continuity? What is that? They would never care. I think they had to let it all go when they used that same morph. And like I had braids and I had straight hair in the morph, and then I'd have braids in like the episode. So they had to let go of continuity.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Karen. How you
Hey.
doing? How's your day going?
Good. Thank you, Corey. Corey's the best.
Nice.
Yeah, she sees me a few times a year.
Yes, he goes to I see him at least 3 or 4 times a year. He goes to tons of Comic-Cons. I love it.
I travel and love it too. The question I got, I know you worked with Walter, Zach, on the show. Did you ever meet his, well, I don't know if he ever got a date with her, but he always tried.
Oh, the girlfriend. What's her name?
Angela was
Angela. We always keep wondering where Angela is. I never met her. No, I didn't.
Probably
She
wasn't
seemed
alone.
like a really nice girl. I mean, she did not fall for. Zach never closed the deal, right? He never
always
got the
turned
date. I told him. I said, "You're not as slick as you think you are, Walter. You didn't close the deal with Angela. That says a lot."
He always got denied from her.
I know, wasn't it like I never saw the episodes, but everyone keeps saying that Zordon kept calling, like right when he was trying to, and he had to go be, and I was like, well, he sacrificed it all for the Power Rangers. They need to bring Angela back, right? We need to find, where is Angela? We need to find her and just have her at a Comic-Con.
I think she left the show when you and Steve and Johnny came.
Yeah.
She was already gone.
I guess she was like, well, Walter, Zach isn't here anymore. My love is gone.
He was moving to Australia.
Yeah, it was all over. Good question. Thank you.
Good one. You're welcome.
Hi. My
Hi.
big question is, like, what was your, and you've touched on this a little bit already, but what was your favorite part about having a bigger budget for the movie? And how did that, like, affect, your acting and how you handled scenes and things like that?
You know what? I loved it, obviously. 'Cause, I mean, we all did, because it was just, when you think of like, oh, you're going to shoot a movie, you think like, oh my gosh, like it's going to be this. And it was. They literally spared no expense. I mean, there was a whole part of the movie we shot, and then they were like, we don't like it. And then they reshot everything. And we were like, what? Like all that, like those last 2 months are just gone. And they were like, yeah, it didn't work. And then, but it ended up that we got that last like scene where we had the rock monsters, like that wasn't even in the movie. And we got that whole, and I just thought it was actually better, because originally we were going to be fighting rats, and they were just like guys in rat suits. And when you have, and it was just like, it wasn't that cool. And so that idea spurred like the ooze guys, which then spurred the rock monsters that were, guarding, and they were like 7 feet tall. They were guarding the thing. So I think anytime you do a movie and like the costumes are just on the level, and then the scenery, it just makes you like more serious. Like we were so hyped about it, and just, so I thought it actually brought out the better acting performances from us, because I was just like, man, this is big. Like we got to bring it, and I want to rehearse, and I want to like, can we work on that fight again? Like it just like elevated everything. And I think everybody felt that way.
That's so cool.
Thank you.
I was just going to ask if the Power Ranger had a question for the Power Ranger.
Yes, Kimberly's in the house. You didn't cancel. She's here, guys. Kimberly is here. I know everyone keeps asking me, like, why is she not? I'm like, I have no idea. I haven't talked to her. I didn't even know she'd canceled.
So my question is, what is the most low-budget thing you ever witnessed being part of Power Rangers?
Oh, I will tell you, the most low-budget thing is like, we'd go on location and we'd have to shoot, and they would literally be like, okay, you're sharing your dressing room with an extra. And we were like, what? And I was like, I don't even know this person. And it wasn't that it was like, oh, I'm too good to share my dressing room. But like, if you think about it, when you're on a TV show, there are like hours that you're just waiting for them to light the scene. And so it's like, we'd go in our room, you shut your door, you take a nap, you read a book, you watch, something. We couldn't do that if like, there's like this person sitting in there with you, and you're just like, I don't even know this person. And like, I've never worked with this person. And I finally had to like put my foot down and was like, if we're on location, I would like to at least have, I don't care if it's this big, I would just rather have my own room, my own space. I shouldn't have to change clothes in a room with someone I don't know. And they were like, really? And I'm like, yeah, really. And like, I was like mad. And so I was just, so it was like, even though it was fun working on the show, they were notoriously cheap, and they were notoriously like, it was just, I hate to say it, but it was a hostile work environment. They were notoriously doing stuff to us and telling us like, well, we'll just fire you, or if you don't do this, then you'll get fired. And finally I was like, you always say that to me, and I'm still here. Okay, fire me. And they were like, never mind. So I knew like, someone was just telling them like, just make them do it. And I'm like, no. So, there was a lot of instances that we'd have that were notoriously cheap.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes, of course.
Did you ever have to do anything that you felt was legitimately dangerous?
I didn't, but I heard season 1, like Austin, all of them said they would have them doing stunts that they knew they could have gotten hurt, and They were like, just do it anyway. And like literally jumping off of a rock 20 feet in the air. And I mean, those guys are athletic, but they're not stuntmen. And that's kind of a different thing. And they're lucky none of them got hurt. Right before we got on the show, you guys heard of VR Troopers, right? They would shoot right next to us. And right before we got on the show, Brad Hawkins had broke his leg. Like literally, and it was doing a stunt and just like they didn't take the proper precautions and he broke his leg. But like that show had to close down for like 3 weeks, and then he had to, and they had just come back and he was literally on crutches, and they were shooting him like on crutches and pretending like they would cover it up so you didn't see that he was hurt. But they were like, whatever you do, they cannot get hurt. So then when I got on there, the safety like got, taken up a notch, and luckily I didn't feel that way, but I heard season 1, it was bad. The guys will tell you, they've got like, ask them about it. They've got horror stories, and I'm just like, oh my God, I would have died. I'm not a stunt woman. I don't want to be one.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
In regards to the changing area, at least I was changing in a locker room filled with not only the actors, but also like the food service people like King's Dominion.
Yeah.
But anyway, my main question was, what's it like filming in New Zealand for a new special? But I guess it's kind of overall, like, what has changed since, I guess, the nearly 30 years since you left the franchise and coming back for once and always?
Yeah, you know what? It was just, they're obviously working with a bigger budget now. I mean, it was funny because they said, for this special, the producer said, we've spent more on this special than we spend on a whole season of Power Rangers. So they spared no expense, and the sets were amazing. They recreated, you've seen in the trailer, they've recreated the juice bar. They've recreated, the command center was pretty awesome. I mean, they just went all out for this, and I'm glad because I know, like, it's been 30 years, and if you guys are going to get a Mighty Morphin episode, they should go all out for you guys. You guys have made it last that long.
And was it still filmed in New Zealand, or did it go back to LA?
No, we shot everything in New Zealand.
Okay.
When we shot the series originally, we were in LA.
Yeah.
But no, the whole thing that we shot was in New Zealand, and the only thing we did here in the States was voiceover.
Ah, okay. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be with you, and again, Ranger Nation is still with you after the huge loss we had.
Thank you so much. Tommy's in the house, both of them. Look at you guys, wow.
What was your favorite monster?
Oh, you know who my favorite's? Rita Repulsa. I love Rita. I love Zed. I love Goldar. Those are my favorites.
My favorite one was the pudding one from the new Dino Fury.
I love that. I like that you love Dino Fury. Do you like that show?
Yes.
I like it too.
Thanks.
Good job. Wow. Tommy times 2. Those are some cool costumes, Mom and Dad. Whoever made those costumes, they did that.
What was your favorite scene in Power Rangers?
My favorite scene?
Yeah.
I don't know. I had a lot of them. I think there was one scene where I was like the fire safety captain, and I'm like, oh my God. So like if you like plug in too many things in this plug, then like you can't have your blow dryer and your grilling iron and da-da-da. And then they show Kimberly and she's like, yeah, girl. Like that to me was hilarious. It was so like girly. Like that's what girls do. We talk crazy, and then like only girls would get it, and she totally got it. I saw that scene recently and I thought that was hilarious. Like we need to recreate that. So that was one, but then there was another scene I did in the Wild Wild West episode. We got to ride horses. I really liked that scene. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I was curious. I've done a bunch of stuff like Unto Thee, Devin's Ghost, and The Order, working behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You're looking to expand more of that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think just as a creative, like most actors are, writers, or we're, producers, or we're directors. Like you have more than one way to be a part of the industry, and I think it's just natural to progress. And for me, producing and writing has been a passion of mine, and I love creating characters and then bringing them to life and actually see that come to life. So for me, that's just, I'm just scratching the surface, but that's, if they say have a 5-year goal, 10-year goal, that's the goal.
Well, I know a couple of things you've worked on. The indie projects have been with people who have been at various Comic-Cons also.
Yeah, yeah.
Who's been the most exciting people that you've met over the course of doing these Comic-Cons?
Oh my gosh, everybody. I remember I was fangirling. They had the cast, at one of the Comic-Cons I went to, they had the cast of Captain America.
Oh, wow.
I'm a fan. I'm equally a fan, and so I love all of them. I was like, oh my god! So I got, I took a photo op with them. I crashed their photo op session, but they were happy. They were like, oh my god! So but yeah, we met Daniel Radcliffe once in London, and it was funny because we walked up to him and we were so excited to meet him. I'm obviously a huge Harry Potter fan, and he was like, "Oh my God, I grew up watching you." We were like, "We grew up watching you." We're like yelling at each other, but he was so nice, like literally the nicest guy ever. Awesome. And he knew who Power Rangers was. Like he watched Power Rangers as a kid, so hey, made my day.
Hello again. I have a question. In regards to like when the first Mighty Morphin movie, what do you think of when they did the remake? Because honestly, the remake kind of, the remake wasn't as
I heard
good as
you
the
guys
original.
didn't like it.
I liked it, but it wasn't as.
You know what
good
they
as the
did?
first one.
They made the cardinal, like the golden rule when you do a remake. They took all the nostalgia out. Like they took all the things that you guys love. Like I was like, did these people ever watch Power Rangers? Like you guys loved it when we used to fight as ourselves. Like we'd call it a civilian fight. But you love seeing us fight. Like, of course you like it when we morph and we do all these cool things. But I think what brought kids into the series and kids were like, I want to be a Power Rangers, when they saw a kid that looked like them be a hero. So it was like they took that out of it. Then they I think they'd said it's morphin' time once, and it was just the one guy. Like the team, it was like when the team, like I know on the trailer of Once and Always, that one part where you see Zach go, it's more, and they just like go into action. People were screaming. They were sending me reaction videos like, oh my God, And so it's like they took that out, and then they changed Goldar, and it was like they just kept changing things and kind of leaned a little more into like alien. Yeah. And it was like, yeah, sure, we got our powers from an alien presence, but it wasn't really an alien show. So I don't know. I mean, I actually watched it, and I went in completely unbiased and just enjoyed it. And I actually like the actors. I love all of their performances. I just felt like if you're going to do a remake, you got to give the fans what they want. You got to give them that. And I kind of thought it sucked that, if you're going to bring Kimberly and Tommy back, why would you have them back for 1 second at the very end?
That was
come on.
The best part, honestly.
Yeah, and literally people asked us that whole year leading up to that movie, like, are you guys going to be in it? Are you going to make a cameo? Like, if they would have had more people in making cameos, I think you guys would have felt a whole different way about the movie. But they didn't, and
they messed
I
up
think they realized their mistakes.
Yeah, the way they did Rita was kind of odd too.
Yeah.
And the Zords, I was like.
Yeah, it was like everything you love, they changed. And I was like, it's cool to change things, but even in our movie, they changed it, but it still remained like the same, but it was just an upgraded version of what it was, right?
Yeah.
So I just think, it was interesting.
Yeah, it was.
Good question.
Speaking of nostalgia stuff, what is your favorite bit of nostalgia from the 30th anniversary?
I think just all of us being together. Like, it was like they kind of put the band back together for a second, So I think for me, that was the most, like I remember we were, there's a scene, we're all together, and we were all like, guys, take this in. Like, we all were taking pictures, we were all excited. And I think it was just that one moment where, we were kind of getting to work together again, and we kind of stopped and smelled the roses. So for me personally, it was just us being together. But I can't say anything else because I don't want to give anything else away.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is regarding Once and Always. Is Toei involved in it?
Who?
Toei, the company that's involved with Super Sentai and all that stuff.
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh.
I think it's just Hasbro and just Hasbro. It's a Hasbro production. I mean, it's there, and Power Rangers, the company that produces the series now. But yeah, no, I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, they might be involved some other way, but I didn't know that they would be.
All right.
Yeah, no worries.
That's just a general question about the outfit. Were there any challenges of doing stunts in that particular outfit?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the spandex was obviously easy to move around in, but you kind of felt naked when you were wearing it. But the movie one, oh my God, it was like 25, 30 pounds. It was heavy. Yeah. And the girls, like me and Amy, we had corsets to kind of cinch our waist in. So it was like, not only was it heavy, it was like just your body was being crunched, and it was hard to breathe. It was hard to move. They would fall apart. It was just, I mean, they looked good on camera, but they were terrible to wear. The only consolation prize we would get was that anytime we wore it, we could schedule a free massage. So after work, we'd have like a massage therapist waiting for us at our hotel. Like it was like, oh, it was awful. But they looked really good. So I mean, I think when we put them on, for the first time we were like, oh my God, we feel like we're Batman. Like it was kind of, Batman was big then, and we were like, oh, I feel like I'm Batman.
How were the helmets to work in?
They were awful too. Only because we made a terrible mistake. Like they actually cast our head, and like they literally put it on, and we just had like 2 straws to breathe, and we had to psych ourselves up, and they were like, it's just gonna be for 3 minutes. It's just gonna be, we'll get it off as soon as possible. We're like, okay. Like we're just like having panic attacks, and it was just crazy. But they cast my head before I got my braids. So the size of my head was one way, and then you add like all this hair, and it's like, so my helmet never would close. So if you notice, Aisha's always kind of turned a little bit, and this like would be open. It was like a gap like that big. And then we like didn't know where to put the hair, and we're like stuffing it, and it just looked awful. So there was a lot of times they had to have someone step in and kind of stand in for me, just because the costume didn't really work with the braids.
Well, the special that's coming up,
yes.
How far in advance did you know that was going to happen? I mean, obviously the anniversary was known, but...
They had kind of contacted us. It was weird. It was different for each of us. Like, they had contacted us like in June-ish of last year. But then I didn't hear from them until like everyone else was hearing from them, but I didn't hear from them until like October. And at that point, I kind of gotten a different deal, that they'd kind of offered me something different, and I told them no. Because I was like, it's been 30 years. If I'm going to come back, I need to get the same thing everyone else gets. Yeah. And I encourage everyone. I only tell this story because it's just one of those things in life and in business, and there's going to be a time that you're at your job and you're going to have an opportunity. You're going to realize something's not fair. Yeah. And I encourage you to speak on it. and you can be completely professional. I was completely professional. I put my feelings aside, and I just was like, look, it's been 30 years. If I'm going to bring back Aisha better, I better have the same situation. And this is just for black women in this industry. Like, black women in Hollywood are statistically paid less than everyone else. So I'm not coming back if I'm not paid exactly the same thing that these other people are being paid. Yeah. And if I don't do it for me, it's like, what is the point? Like, I can't play a superhero if in real life I'm taking an L. Like, I can't do it. And so, thankfully, with that being said, they could have been like, okay, cool, you're not in it. They've done that before to me several times. But this time, one of the producers, she actually read the email that I sent. She actually called me and was like, okay, tell me what's going on. And I told her, they've called me every 2 years. They've called me for the last 5 years. I can send you the email. And 1 year they were like, we decided we don't want to use you anymore. The next year they were like, we changed our mind. And I go, so now here we are, and I know this is happening, so I'm not going for it. And she was like, I wouldn't either. And we talked for an hour, and I literally was like, I got off the phone going, well, I feel great that I stood up for myself. But she actually called me back like within an hour, and she goes, you know what? I called everyone that I needed to call, and everything you want, you're going to get. Wow. Can you come to New Zealand next week? And I go, I sure can. So I just encourage you. Like I always say, like, you never know. So you might ask for something that you think I'm going to get told no, and they might just say yes. So there you go. That's how I got in the series. That's how I got in this episode. But I just said, you know, I'm very like, I mean, if you follow me on social media, you'll know I'm very passionate about, you know, equality, and I'm very passionate about fighting for women and passionate about really fighting for just the underdog. I don't care if you're in a group that doesn't get treated fairly, I'm probably going to be on your side. So I felt like, and I told him, I said, I feel like if I don't fight for this in real life, what is the point of going on TV and pretending that I'm fighting for good if I'm not fighting for good in my real life? And so thankfully, there was a female producer who was like, yeah, girl, I got you. And I was there. So that's how it happened.
Excellent.
Yes.
100%.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions out there? Because we're coming up on time just a bit. Yep.
Yes. Oh, I have a lot of them. Yeah. I think the last time I saw him is probably my favorite. Jason and I, you can ask anybody. Jason was a complicated guy. I always called him the Sour Patch Kid as a joke because he would do something, he'd be sour, and then he'd be sweet. And he's just that guy that you'd want to punch and then you'd want to hug, you know, because he just would do crazy things. But the last time I saw him, we were at Power Morphicon in LA, a huge Power Ranger convention. And I remember I was coming out of the green room. It was me and my husband. And he was standing there like talking to people and he was doing something. And I just walked up behind him and hugged him. And he was like, and I go, hey, Jay, how are you? And he just looked at me, he was like, Karan. And we just like hugged and we talked. And that was our final, you know, that was the last time I saw him. So I'm just thankful that the last time we saw each other, we were hugging each other, we were laughing, you know, and we just had a really sweet moment. And it was private. No one was around. It was just me, him in the hallway, and there was other people there, but I mean, no, you know, it wasn't like in the middle of the con floor. We were just kind of in our own little world. So that right now is my favorite moment. You know, obviously we didn't expect what happened to happen. So I'm just thankful that, you know, we ended it with a hug.
What would you say is your funniest moment that you remember from doing Power Rangers?
When we were doing the skydiving scene. I told you they pulled us up on wires and we were like 50 feet in the air. And like what they would do is they would like on the wire, you could just flip. Like if you lean forward, your body would flip. Like that's how it was set up. Like it was pretty easy to kind of turn to flip. And so of course everyone's doing theirs and I'm like, yeah. And then we go to lunch and I'm like, because I was like, come on, let me go before dinner, you know, because I know anytime we go to dinner, it takes them hours to like reset it up. So we come out of dinner and they're like, okay, Karan, we're going to get you. You're going to go right up. We left the lights and they had no setup. And I'm like, okay. So I go up and I'm like, flip, and then you pose for the camera. And then I go, they're like, okay, one more time. And I flip, pose for the camera. And they're like, yeah, let's just do a third one for safety. Okay, flip. And then I threw up on the camera. So that was hilarious because I was 50 feet in the air. And if you know how that works, I mean, I threw up and I was like holding it because I just was like trying to guard the camera. But it took them like 5 minutes to bring me down. And so I'm just like, and then Jason and David are taking pictures of me throwing up. And yeah, it was hilarious. I had to laugh. You got to laugh at yourself. If you throw up 50 feet in the air, you got to just laugh. Absolutely. You got to laugh that off.
Any other questions?
Hey, there's a cool pink ranger, ninja. I love it. Good job. I know, everybody look. You deserve it.
Okay.
Yes. You know what? It was like one of the, you know, Power Rangers is funny. Like the producers, before they did Power Rangers, they were very accomplished, successful musicians. Like they had written like the music to like Inspector Gadget. Like they were like hugely successful on the musical side of things, and they were moving into the producing side of things. So they wrote it. Somebody wrote it, and we went into a studio, and they were like, "Okay, sing this," and we just sang what they wrote. And we actually thought it was very cheesy, and we were like hated it. And then when we recorded it and everything was together, we were like, okay, it's kind of cool. But me and Catherine were hating it the whole time. We were like, this is a dumb song. But then it's kind of catchy, and it was a sweet song. So yeah, we know nothing.
How would you say you're most and least like your character?
I'm most like her because I'm very bubbly and she's very bubbly. I'm least like her because I would not do. I'm not like I would never jump out of a plane. I'm not adventurous like that. So yeah, I'm actually scared. Like if I saw a monster jump up, I'm running. Like I'm not gonna stand there and fight him, you know. So yeah, I'm not like Aisha. I think she's more heroic than I would be.
Of the projects you've done outside of Power Rangers,
yes.
What would you say is your favorite, or the one that didn't get as much love as you'd hoped it would?
You know what my favorite thing I did after Power Rangers, and I did it right. I actually did it while I was on Power Rangers. I was on an episode of Hanging with Mr. Cooper, and it was like they were the most amazing cast to work for. But in the episode, I died. So literally. We would work all week. Like we rehearsed all week, and then we shot the episode on Friday in front of a live studio audience. And all week I was begging the producers and begging them, like, who do we talk to? Does she have to die? Like, do I have to die? And they were like, by the end, the cast was like, does she have to die? Like, she would be a great addition to our cast. Like, I felt like that was the one time I would have had the job. Like, they would have brought me back. I'd have been recurring. I'd have come back to that show and worked on that show several times, but because I died, it was just not possible. And I was like, guys, they do it in soaps. Just like change my hair and like bring me back next year. No one will know. And they're like, but you died. And it was actually a very important episode about, gang violence. And it was like the one episode they did that had like a message. And I was a part of it. It was great. But I was like, why do I have to die? I literally would have a job. So it was heartbreaking for me.
The price of the very special episode.
Yeah. But to this day, people come up to me and are like, oh my God, when you died on Hang with Mr. Cooper, like they like get teary about it. It was actually, my niece saw it when she was little and she cried. And my sister was like, she had to call me because she was like, she thinks she really passed away. And I was like, no, it was just TV. So to this day, people really bring that one up. But that was like probably my favorite.
And you mentioned being on Kenan and Kel. What are those guys like?
Oh, they're crazy. They're so talented though. Like it was fun because we were all kind of the same age. Yeah. And they're just so creative. Like literally every single take would be different. And not that they would change the words or what was happening. It was just, they would change the way they'd make it funny. And it would be funny every single time, but they would do something different and it was so hilarious. Yeah. Kel, I see him on cons all the time. We're really good friends, and Kenan I think is starting to do some, or at least just come and make appearances and stuff. But yeah, they're cool, really good guys, really good, talented people. Like I felt like I was in like comedy, like I was like acting class 101 on how to do comedy, and these guys are the teachers.
And just last question to bring it back to Power Rangers.
Yes.
How do you look back at the overall experience, and would you be glad to go back to it again if they did like a 40th anniversary?
Yeah, I mean this time, honestly, it was such a pleasure. Now, like I said before, it was kind of bumpy me getting there, but once I got there, it was the most perfect experience. The crew in New Zealand is amazing. They put so much love into this. They just really took their time. They treated us great. So yeah, I would love to. Like I told them, I said, you really changed my outlook on this company and just this franchise. Like we all left Power Rangers because of, something terrible. Like it probably, you didn't leave the #1 kids show in the world because you were bored doing it. You left because the producers were mean to you, or you left because things were just not good. Yeah. Because literally all of us would have stayed. We'd still be Power Rangers right now if they would have just been fair, So they really changed it and changed everything for us. And I'm really proud of them as a company to like make things better, you know, because they know the story, so they made it better. And yeah, I would love to go back. Like we were pitching ideas for ways we could come back while we were there. Really good ideas, actually.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Karen. Appreciate you coming.
Yes,
Thanks for all your
thank
great questions,
you.
everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.